how are you? Welcome on in.
Podcast by George.
Another podcast by George.
Podcast by George. Border to border. Coast to coast. Podcast by George.
Good morning. Hello. Hi. How are you? Welcome on in to another podcast by George. Bright and early here. Reminds me of my broadcasting days. Boy, we put this one together quickly because Joe Biden, the president of the United States, is in Kyiv. At least he was until just a little while ago. I don't know if he's back in wheels up in the air or not, but I wanted to bring on our buddy, our old pal out there, just riding it out in Ukraine. And it is Serge Tiagniryadno. Let's bring his graphic up here. And we've had him on many times. He's a favorite. People love this guy. He's a musician, a singer, a songwriter, which singers and musicians, they're always proud of the fact that they're writing these songs, folks. He's a songwriter, and he's from Kyiv, Ukraine. He and his family resided there. The war broke out. He sent them to safety. He stayed behind. He's been kind of our Edward R. Murrow from the rooftops. And I was telling him before we came on the air here this morning that that live line intro that you hear, that music, that's from the great Tom Murphy and his wife, Tracy Murphy. And the reason that we're talking to Serge, it's these things are circuitous, folks, is because of Tom. He's the one that referred me to Serge. He was a fan of his, I think, even before the war broke out. Tom's just an all-world bass player here in the heartland, and he was aware of Serge's work, and he loved the guy, and he said, you got to try to get a hold of him. I did, and here we are. So let's say good morning. Hi, Serge. How you doing out there?
Hello, George. Nice to meet you. Podcast by George.
That's crazy.
That's
Isn't
so
that great?
cool. I like it.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, honest to God, and to have friends that are talented and can do that kind of thing, it's great. I've got a lot of those intros. I try to put them in rotation so that people don't get tired of them, but that's the new one, and I'm playing that one a lot. Well, our time's limited here. I want to make sure that we get to the big story here with Serge. Let me see if I can get this to come up on screen here. There we go. Joe Biden declares Kyiv stands in a surprise visit to Ukraine. Yeah, he jumped on a plane and flew over there. This is a trend that started a while ago. I think it may be security reasons, but I mean, they just kind of show up. And so he was surprised me. And so this is why I had to get Serge on the show here. Let me click this so I can get it up large enough to read Dateline Kyiv from Associated Press. President Joe Biden paid an unannounced visit to Ukraine on Monday, it's today, folks, to meet with President Vladimir Zelensky in a defiant display of Western solidarity with the country still fighting what he called a brutal and unjust war days before the 1-year anniversary of Russia's invasion. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of coverage on that because the news business loves these dates, these anniversaries, and we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. Quote, 1 year later, Kyiv stands, Biden declared after meeting Zelensky at Merlinsky Palace, jamming his finger for emphasis on his podium against a backdrop of 3 flags from each country. He continued, and Ukraine stands, democracy stands, the Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you. Biden spent more than 5 hours in the Ukrainian capital consulting with Zelensky on next steps, honoring the country's fallen soldiers and seeing U.S. embassy staff in the besieged country. Okay, I mean, I don't think anybody in Kyiv, anybody in Ukraine would be, opposed to this type of appearance and statement. But Serge, I don't know. I would imagine that you were looking for details. You might have been looking for something a little more. Those are kind of platitudes. They're support, kind of morale building type statements, but there's not a lot there. What's your take on it thus far?
Well, anyway, it is inspiring and it shows that we will receive support, and we are very thankful for that support. Of course, the main topic right now is the weapon for our soldiers, and we receive a lot of stuff, and we starting to receive even tanks, but The main topic is the long distance weapon that can help us to free Donbass region and Crimea Peninsula, and as well to protect us from Russians' jet fighters and missiles, because they are keeping their air fleet on a distance more than 200 kilometers where our weapon cannot reach them.
I had to throw this together quickly, so I don't have a lot of coverage on this. I've mostly got the Associated Press article kind of down the middle here in media, mainstream media here in America. I've also got a Common Dreams article from the left that I want to bring up on screen. But let me continue with this Associated Press article. And this kind of underscores what Sergey was talking about. The visit comes at a crucial moment. Biden is trying to keep allies unified in their support for Ukraine as the war is expected to intensify with spring offensives. So, okay, we're going to continue with this, but every word means something. I read these things and I go, well, wait a second. Now, Suri, I was hearing a lot here about 6 months ago about how this was all going to intensify in the winter, that war was going to be hell, that people like yourselves were going to go dark and cold. Now, that hasn't happened. The war intensifying, I don't know if that's happened or not, but I've seen some alarming statistics. I don't know if these are accurate or not, but our General Mark Milley here in the United States said that 100,000 Russian soldiers had been killed, and he said he thought maybe that many on the Ukrainian side. Is the casualty count that high? Is that what you're seeing reported? Is that what you're hearing in Kyiv?
It's difficult to say something right now, but we know that our losses are big, but much less than Russian losses, because they really do not count lives of these soldiers. And you know that probably 10 days ago they started a new wave of attacks in Donetsk region and Luhansk region, and they have no advance, so they losing like almost 1,000 of their soldiers daily.
Wow.
You can imagine, yeah. So they just pushing their soldiers to our fortifications, and our soldiers just killing them. Of course, they using artillery and their missiles, and of course they sometimes they hit our militaries, but the numbers are much lower than Russians. And anyway, on one hand, they have no advance there. On other hand, they still have like thousands of their soldiers. So it can continue like forever for us, and they still have a lot of people in Russia they can mobilize, and well, it's just terrible, and there's going nowhere.
God, yeah, I mean, terrible. I'm an old lefty. I got to tell you, man, I hate to see a body count of any type. Those numbers are astronomical that you're talking about. Now, in my own experience, going clear back to the Vietnam War, the people were watching these body bags come home, watching these caskets come home. I mean, it was that had a lot to do with us finally getting out of that, extricating ourselves from Vietnam. Does that happen where you're at? I mean, are caskets coming home to Kyiv?
No. Well, of course, we hear about losses every day. Someone is dying, but it's not like hundreds of killed soldiers each day.
Wow. I'm putting these comments up. There's a great Tom Murphy. He's watching this morning. That's great. Maybe his ears are burning. Tom, I was telling Sergey about the theme
Great
song.
job, Tom.
Yeah.
Героям слава.
And his wife, Tracy. Yeah. And Katie, the daughter, they're all talented. They're artists and musicians. I mean, it's just wonderful stuff. Okay, let me get back to this article here and bring this up because I just kind of interrupted it right in the middle of it. Let me see if I can bring this back up on screen. Okay, so like I said, that the war was supposed to be horrific here in winter, and it is. but they're saying it's expected to intensify with the spring offensives. Zelensky is pressing allies to speed up delivery of promised weapon systems and calling on the West to provide fighter jets, something the Biden administration has declined to do thus far. And I know this is something that you've been talking about for a long time, sir. He is this air support. Tell folks why that's so important to you.
Well, that's important because Russia has much more fighting jets and planes than we have, and they are not using them much because they're afraid that our air defense system will destroy all of them, probably for a reason. But as well, they keep shelling us with their missiles, literally each day. So the amount of missiles less than it was like a few months ago, but they sending like 10, 12 missiles each day in a completely random destinations, not to the front line. And of course, fighting jets as a part of the air defense system would be very helpful. And as well, fighting jets would provide great support to our militaries who are ready to take back the territories on Donbass region and in Crimea Peninsula as well.
Okay, so again, and I'm speaking from my own reference point here on the left. There's an increasing call now for negotiations for some type of a ceasefire in hopes of a settlement. But let's talk about those fighter jets and these air defenses because there are people, lots of people. I don't know if they're absolutely correct or not, but they believe that that's kind of the the red line. I mean that if we put fighter jets in Ukraine, particularly with our pilots, but maybe not with our pilots, but then all hell breaks loose. Then NATO comes in. Then we got World War III. Then this really goes on a grand scale, and the world suffers the kind of consequences that Ukraine has suffered. What's your response to that?
Well, unfortunately, I understand the reasons these people are talking about, but unfortunately, I think that this war just started a year ago. I mean, Third World War, and I think that most of the countries, their governments, they are pretty sure right now that Russia will not win this war, but the main problem for all of them is what's going to be after we will take back all our territories and what will happen next. And there's a lot of different variation of this scenarios, and they are not good for everybody because some thinking that Russia will fall apart for I don't know how many different countries, because Russia is not just like a country with one nation. It's more like a Soviet Union was. There's a lot of different nations there, and of course, not everybody wants to be responsible for what Kremlin did. So probably someone will have a wish to be separated from Moscow, for example. And there's a possibility of using of nuclear weapon and other things that these people in Kremlin should can do. So it's unpredictable, and everybody's afraid of it. I mean, the European countries and probably a lot of people in US as well.
I got to ask
So
you. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. So I mean that right now everybody is thinking what we can give Ukraine to make situation more clear. But I can tell you one thing, that negotiations, we've been talking about negotiations since the war has started, but not once the Russian government ever ceased fire. So I think that's impossible.
The question I wanted to ask, and I mentioned off the top, I mean, you were touring around the world with a Russian-based band at one time. You've got, and everybody in Ukraine, I think a lot of people do have real personal connections to folks in Russia. Do you hear from them? What do you hear from Russian friends and families and stuff that you know?
You mean from the band I've been working with?
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Well,
just people of Russia?
people of Russia, yeah,
I cannot tell you about the band because I haven't heard from them since
yeah.
last spring. But yes, a lot of people have connections with Russia. A lot of people have even relatives in Russia. So unfortunately, we can admit that 99% of population in Russia, they are sure that this war is legal, and they have a right to kill Ukrainians, and there's uh, there's everything that's Kremlin propaganda was talking about during the years. I mean, here in Ukraine, and they do not listen to other opinions
Mm.
other than Russian. Well, there's of course there's still few people that do not support the war, that they understand that this is a criminal war, but most of them either left Russia because they they couldn't do anything, or they just trying to be silent there. Very, very, I think we can count on fingers of our hand people in Russia really stating something against the war. And there's a very, very few people,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, putting these comments up on screen from people that want to show their support for Ukraine and for Sergei. And I want to tell everybody, I mean, make comments, show your support, ask questions, because I can't tell you how unprecedented this is. How, I mean, I likened him to Edward R. Murrow on the rooftops of London, to be able to talk to somebody that's attuned to what's happening on the ground, so to speak, from
Yeah,
Kyiv.
and during past 2 months, we didn't have much opportunity to speak with someone because we had a lot of outages, and that
Yeah.
was really messy. So right now we starting to have our electricity back. So we hope that we will communicate more with people online, I mean in social medias, but it was really almost impossible to do it on a regular schedule as we did.
Put this up on screen. This is from Nancy. This is a good comment to make. She says the band speaks very highly of you at the concert, so maybe she's following them, and that would be kind of what I would expect from musicians in particular. I mean, it's all about the music. They're not politicians, so to speak. You didn't leave on bad terms. A damn war broke out, from what I understand. So
Yeah.
there's no reason to believe that they wouldn't speak well of you. I mean, those guys love you, all right? That's what I would think.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Let me go back here to this article now. I want to get through this from Associated Press to get, I put most of it up here. Now, this is one thing that people here are starting to chafe a little bit about. And I know that's why the AP put this in the article. In Kyiv, Biden announced an additional $500 million in U.S. assistance on top of the more than $50 billion already provided for shells, for howitzers, anti tank missiles, air surveillance radars, and other aid, but no new advanced weaponry. So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the details that you were looking for here, Sergey. It doesn't look like he's going to Biden is announcing this type of air defense, fighter jet, new advanced weaponry thing, shells for howitzers, anti-tank missiles, air surveillance radars, and other aid. A hell of a lot of it. I mean, $50 billion altogether, but maybe, again, not what you were looking for. Would that be a correct assessment?
Well, probably yes. Right from the start, when this war has just started, well, literally our militaries had nothing to fight with. So that was like old Soviet equipment that not properly worked by the time. And step by step, we starting to receive something, at least like modern tanks and some missiles that can reach at least 80 kilometers. But looking at these numbers, like $50 billion, for the normal situation, it looks like, well, there's a huge money that you cannot even imagine it. But you should understand that during the war, uh, money just disappearing there. So we have like more than 1,000 of kilometers of the front line. Uh, Everywhere there's our soldiers who are under the shellings each day. Uh, Even the transportations cost and cars there, they do not live more than 1 week. So each week they have to have new transport, new cars, and that costs like a terrible amount of money. So and all other equipment, all the ammos, it's very, very expensive. So probably this war will take much more um, billions of dollars. But the most terrible thing that you cannot compare all these crazy amounts of money with quantity of lives they perished. So each day, not only military is dying, each day some civilians dying, and that didn't stop from the start of the war, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I want
So
to bring again. It reminds me of the great Tom Murphy that I talked about earlier. He'd be the first one to talk about this money situation that you're mentioning. I mean, this is alarming. This a huge amount of money that's going over there. But he would be probably the first to say, I've never really understood modern monetary theory, but it ain't real. This money cannot be accounted for. We create
yeah,
the money. Literally, it's a push button on a computer. We can generate the money to support Ukraine just like we generate money for everything. And from my point of perspective, the debt, the deficit, all this stuff that everybody's so worried about, it's so astronomical that it really is not real. I mean, when you start talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, it's money that cannot be even accounted for in the human brain. Let me bring this
yeah,
up on screen here. I want to and again, shout out to Tom Murphy. There's my little live line graphic that I created. I wanted to bring the article back up here that we can get to. So that's the additional assistance that's going over there. Now, Ukraine has also been pushing for battlefield systems that would allow for its forces to strike Russian targets that have been moved back from frontline areas out of the range of HIMARS missiles that have already been delivered. Zelensky said he and Biden spoke about long-range weapons and the weapons that may still be supplied to Ukraine, even though it wasn't supplied before. But he did not detail any new commitments. Our negotiations were very fruitful. Okay, I would normally look at comments like this and that opening comment from Biden that I mentioned. That's all political speak, but it is war. So, I mean, they do couch their comments and they're very careful with what they say. Biden's mission with his visit to Kyiv, which comes before a scheduled trip to Warsaw, Poland, is to underscore that the United States is prepared to stick with Ukraine as long as it takes to repel Russian forces, even as public opinion polling suggests the U.S. and allied support for providing weaponry and direct economic assistance has started to soften. For Zelensky, the symbolism of having the U.S. president stand side by side with him on Ukrainian land as the anniversary nears is no small thing, as he prods allies to provide more advanced weaponry and step up delivery. I thought it was critical that there not be any doubt, none whatsoever, about U.S. support for Ukraine in the war. Again, that's okay, but it's all about what that support entails. And that's what we've been talking about. I want to bring this up because we're going to run out of time here before we know it with Serge. I hope his power doesn't go out because it does once in a while.
Me too.
Let's bring this up on screen because this is a left-wing website that I follow very closely, Common Dreams. Now, they've got some of these peace protests that are underway. There was a big one in Washington, D.C. yesterday, and there's one coming up. Peace campaigners call on Congress to resist pressure for further escalation in Ukraine. Quote, we need Congress to take a stand and push for urgent diplomatic efforts to end the war. All right, so let's bring that down off screen and ask Serge about that right off the top, because this is kind of this house of mirrors that we live in that I talk about on the show all the time. I don't suppose you want the military support, but you wouldn't be opposed to diplomatic efforts for peace talks, for a ceasefire, if they could sit down and do this. I mean, diplomacy is a good thing. You would support that, right?
Of course, if Russians would cease fire, that could work. But you cannot negotiate when you are under the shellings each day. That's just impossible. So if they want to negotiate, they should do something, right? Well, we always, our politicians said that we are ready to negotiate once they will cease the fire.
Okay, good. Let me bring this article back up and get to this last of this and get his reaction. Peace advocates from across the United States plan to convene in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. Now, that's tomorrow, folks, for a lobby day during which they'll call on lawmakers to push for a ceasefire and diplomatic talks in Ukraine as the Biden administration responds to pressure to provide the Ukrainians with fighter jets. We've been talking about that. Quote, we need to stop rubber stamping tens of billions of dollars for weapons for an unwinnable proxy war between the United States and Russia, said co-organizer Ann Wright, a retired Army colonel and State Department diplomat. It's time for Congress to reassert its constitutional authority over matters of war and peace and call for negotiations, not escalation. Okay, so for your reaction on that, sir, there's a couple of things there that we're hearing a lot about. The proxy war, I don't know, that's hard to debate that because that basically means that we're sending you stuff, but we're not over there fighting directly, at least overtly. So that's the proxy war part of it. But what about that element that Ukraine cannot win that war? Now, that's a big belief here, particularly on the left. There are a lot of people on the peace side and also on the military side that say Ukraine simply cannot win this war. Russia is too powerful and has too much. Now, the way Ukraine could win this war is if NATO gets involved and comes in with the United States, and then we're talking World War III. But what's your reaction to those comments?
Well, we already in World War III because not only Russia is fighting against Ukraine. There's a Belarus, Iranian drones and missiles and other support, and other countries supporting Russia. So it's already started. And the thing is that Ukraine cannot win the war. I think it's wrong because we already did it since last spring. During 9 months, Russia has no advance, and we fought back few of the territories like region of Kharkiv and Kherson. So our militaries are fighting back territories, and that means that we are winning the battle. Of course, in the way like things are now, it will take probably 5 years or 6 years to get rid of all the Russian troops in Ukraine. But no one here in Ukraine is ready to give up. So we won't be able to accept that Russia is taking some of our territories. That's not appropriate for us. So all the negotiations are possible only when Russian militaries will go out of Ukraine.
Yeah, and we can't underscore. I say it all my show all the time. And the great Chris Edges was on, and he's opposed to war more than anybody. But he says, make no mistake about it. He says, under Nuremberg, this is a war crime. I mean, we're talking about Putin going to the Hague and being hung by the neck for this. I mean, this is it is a war crime. Russia is at fault for invading Ukraine. Don't make any mistake about that, folks. I want to bring this up because this is from John Roberts. He's an astute political observer that follows my show. He says, I wish all of you in Ukraine great luck and success. How do you feel about the support that you're getting from Europe? We've talked a lot about the United States, but what about these other NATO nations? What about Europe and its support? Are they doing enough in your mind, Sergey?
Well, no one is doing enough until the war continues, but we feel and we receive big support from Europe, especially from Poland and Lithuania, and Estonia. And probably that's the other topic that not only United States supporting us, but also these countries, because they know if somehow Russia will take over Ukraine, they will be next. So if we just give up, the Ukrainians will say, "Okay, let invade us." So Putin will not stop only on Ukraine; he will go further. Probably not immediately, but it will happen. So they are supporting us as much as they can. I mean, not only government, but just people. They are sending us money for the militaries, for civilians. They providing us with humanitarian support. So we are very thankful for that to all the European countries.
Okay, another question for you. You've talked before how prior to all of this starting, you were not a Zelensky guy. I mean, you were not a big supporter of his. What about thus far as the war leader, president? How do you feel
I'm
about
not a
him
big
now?
supporter right now, but you cannot just change the president during the war. It is what it is, and he's doing good. So, well, after the war will end, we can have some political discussion. Right now, it's just impossible. So we do not say anything against our government because there is no reason for that.
Now you could if you wanted to. I mean, I don't want to make people
Well,
think
yes,
that. Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah,
course, I won't be jailed or whatever, but it's just
yeah.
just has no sense, you know.
And that does happen, folks. I mean, not in Ukraine. The great Julian Assange, I talk about him on the show all the time. Here's what John says. I think you're right that Poland and especially the Baltics would be next if Ukraine falls. So that's the dominoes that he's talking about. I don't know if I see you nodding, so you agree with that. I mean, do you really think that Putin is hell bent on what,
Of
like
course, uh,
domination of that hemisphere, or what? What are you thinking?
of course. A few weeks ago in Moldova, it's we have a border with Moldova, and we have a Transnistria, which is partially controlled by Russia, and they try to prepare some saboteurs there to take over the power in the country of Moldova, but they didn't succeed. And they are trying to have some influence there all the time, and the same is in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. They are all been occupied by Soviet Union for like 40 years, since 50s of the last century, and there were terrible things happening, and no one in these countries wants to Russian influence to get back there. So they still remember what been happening during the Soviet occupation of these countries. And the same is in the Poland. For mid 80s, it was like under the big influence of Soviet Union, and they also fought their freedom back. So they understand what it is.
And in your neighborhood in Kiev, uh, yeah, I'm right. Okay, so in this article from Associated Press, I didn't have this passage up, but it kind of starts off saying as soon as Biden went outside or hit the ground or they met for that photo op, air raid sirens went off like holy bejabbers. But I thought of you immediately because, sir, he said that shit happens all the time. So you don't be overly concerned about it. I mean, are missiles still coming into Kiev? Are the air raid sirens still going off all the
Yes,
time?
yes,
Yeah.
and missiles and drones, and even you had the situation with air balloons in
Yeah,
U.S.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We had the same few days in Kiev, because they are trying to distract our air defense system with these balloons, and they're sending them. So few balloons were above Kiev. As for today, yes, we had a air raid alert, and I know that American security services, they informed Russian side that president will visit Kiev today, before even we knew that. And even though they started few fighting jets in Belarus, and that's why we had air raid alert, because um, they can hit us with missiles when they are starting fighting jets there.
Well, got to wrap up here pretty soon. We got to let him go. I hope you stay safe, pal. I mean, it's great to be able to talk to you. I just think this is outstanding. And like I tell people, the internet connection is a lot better than when I go across town sometimes to talk to people. So it's wonderful to be able to get your insight and perspective. I wish that Biden's team would have brought Sergey in. I wish they beating with Zelensky is one thing. Honest to God, I mean, this kind of perspective is this is what wars. It's about the people, folks. I mean, the
Yeah.
politicians and the war leaders and the military guys and that type of thing. But it's all about, to me, people like Sergey. Your family's still gone, right? You're still living apart from your family in isolation there.
Uh,
Do you get, yeah.
well, yes, my family is in Warsaw, in Poland. So, well, they visited me on the holidays, New Year's holidays, but they are studying there, so and it's much safer there. So we keep our children there, and my wife works there in Warsaw. So
Yeah. I'm going to put these comments up here because there's just people that want to, and some of these people may be known to you from your work on your music and sites and stuff. There's Donna Crouch. Let me see. Um, let's see. This is from Nick. Please stay safe and away from the front. We will need music later. Yeah, I guess I got to agree with that too. I mean, honest to God, man, stay safe out there, sir. Anything in closing here that you want to kind of? I always like to give you the last word coming in from Kiev out there. Anything you want to
well,
say here in closing?
I hope it won't be the last word, but
Yeah.
well, I want to thank especially American people for your support, and all the other countries. We really feel that, and that's very important. And in a 5 days, that will be actual anniversary of full scale war start. But you know that this war has started in 2014, so we're fighting like 9 years from now, and it was just a few days ago. It was anniversary of events that been going on here during the revolution in 2013-14, and that's when we fought back our freedom and get rid of the criminal president. Russia decided to fix it and put everything in their order. So we will continue to fight. We will continue to fight for our freedom. So stay tuned, support us, and Slava Ukraini, Heroям Slava.
Ah, that's great,
Hope to
pal.
see you soon.
Yeah, you stay safe. You stay well. We will circle back, and thanks to everybody that commented. I almost hate to hang this one up, but we got to say so long. See you, Serge. Thanks, pal.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
And folks, if you like Podcast by George, if you like seeing him, if you like hearing him from around the globe, I always tell people, please sign up on Podcast by George so that, I gain subscribers and I beat the algorithms on Facebook and YouTube so that we extend the reach of Podcast by George. You can do that at podcastbygeorge.com. Go click on an icon there, a badge, a place where you would like to watch the videos. Facebook and YouTube are both there. If you sign up on YouTube, you got to, not only subscribe, but ring that notification bell, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, all those types of things help. And then, of course, audio only platforms include Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, iTunes, Deezer, Stitcher, all those kinds of places where audio podcasts are heard. But that's going to do it. That's going to wrap it up. That's all there is. And there ain't no more. That's another podcast by George.